Hi, we're going to be working on homework number 9 on exponent rules, and I'm sorry in class we didn't go over very much of those rules with a short amount of time. In number 1, we can do two methods. We can expand and cross out, and that would be known as the safest method to do it, the safest one. So I'm going to go ahead and do that method right now. 13 over 16, those are two numbers. I'm just going to write that. I'm going to expand out the x to the second power, which would give me x times x. I'm going to expand out the y to the 8th power, which would give me times y times y times y. I'm going to have 8 y's here. Okay, and then in my denominator, I have y to the 3rd power, which is going to give me 3 y's. I'm going to line up the y's just to help me organize so that I don't miss any numbers. I'm going to simplify, because that's what the question tells me to do right there. And by simplifying, it seems that a y and a y, I'm going to cancel that out, so I could cross that out. Another y I could also cross out. And a third y, I'm also going to cross out here. I'm so sorry here. There we go. What I have left would then just be my final answer. So I have 13 x to the second power, because there's two x's being multiplied, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 y's being multiplied, so that would make 5 to the y to the 5th power, over, and then 16. Now the 13 and the 16 cannot be divided by a common number, and so I will just leave that as my final answer for number 1. For number 1, another way to do that would be by using the exponent rules. The rules that we can use would be to take common base numbers. So here we have a common base number of y. If I have y to the 8th power divided by y to the 3rd power, I'm allowed to subtract the exponents 8 and 3. So here I'm going to rewrite that. So here's using the exponent rules. Where I would have y to the 8th power and y to the 3rd power, and I still have 13x squared and then the 16 underneath it. So I'm really just focusing on the y's. Because they have a common base, I'm allowed to subtract 8 from minus 3. So if I do that, I still have 13x squared and 16 in the denominator. And if I subtract y, 8 minus 3, I will then get my final answer, which is what I got the first time I did it by using the process called expand and cross out. Okay. And really the rest of I'm going to actually erase this right here. This gives me y to the 5th, and that's how I get my final answer. I'll work on number 2 and then erase this part later. Actually, number 2, the 12 and the 12, I can actually cancel that out, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel that out. The x's and the y's, I'm going to expand that out. For x to the 8th, I'm going to get x times x times x times x, 8 of them. So I want to make sure I count the right number. And then y's, I have 4, so times y, 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 y. I could put little dots in between them, my timesing. And then the x's, I have 8 x's, so I'm going to put that underneath the x's. And it seems like I have the same number of x's above and below. I'm going to line that up a little better. Okay, and then my y's, I happen to have 1 of them. So if I were to cancel them out, I cancel all the 8 x's out, all 8 x's, and what I get left is 1, because all of this simplifies to the number 1. And then y's, I can cancel a y out, and whoops, and then get my final answer, which I don't have 12s, I have no more x's, and all I have left is y to the 3rd power, and then nothing left on the denominator, so I can go ahead and leave my answer just like that for number 2. Alright, for number 3 and 4, I would like you to try that all by yourself after doing 2 examples. And I will do number 8 just because it isn't too difficult, but I want you to try the more difficult ones, and we can always talk about that the next day in class. Between the 10 and the 2, I can simplify those numbers there. I can divide both by the number 2, and what I will get is 5 over 1 and then I'm going to take care of the variables. I have a to the 8th, which is 8 a's. So that's 8 a's. And I have 1a in the denominator. So I get to cross out 1a. And again, that is similar to me subtracting 8 minus 1. So I have 5 in my numerator, 1 in the denominator. I can subtract 8 minus 1. And I do leave that in the numerator next to the 5, not next to the 1. And my final answer would still give me what I do from expanding it out. I will have 5 over 1, and then a to the 7th power. And I don't actually need the 1 below it. That's not going to help me. And I can just write 5a to the 7th power as my final answer without the 1 underneath it. I'm going to do the back side of the worksheet now. In the negative exponents, what we had learned from before was that a negative exponent, I find the reciprocal, I'm sorry, I'm spelling that wrong. And there's the right spelling. And I will make the negative exponent positive. Alright, so what you'll see me do is for number 9, the negative 4 is the exponent for the letter n, not for 5. So the 5 will just stay a 5. Okay. Then the n to the negative 4th power will become the reciprocal. So n is really n over 1. So to become the reciprocal, it's going to change to 1 over n. That's the reciprocal. And then the negative 4 will actually become a positive 4. So I'm going to keep the 5 was actually in my numerator because I wrote 5 over 1. So my final answer will be 5 over and then n to the 4th power in the denominator. And that's my final answer for number 9. On number 11, I'm just going to do the odds on this side of the page. Number 11, I have negative 3 over 1. And then I have b to the negative 1, which means that I'm going to take the b, which is b over 1, find the reciprocal, okay, reciprocal, and make it 1 over b, and the b negative 1 will now be positive 1 where the b is. So I do want to, in my final answer, combine the negative 3 over 1, negative 3, with the b over negative 1. I'm going to write it over here. And that would be my final answer. So it's actually negative 3 over b as my final answer. Number 13, I have a negative 5. That's like a negative 5 over 1. So that's going to be part of my answer. Then I have n to the negative 2nd power. That's like n over 1 to the negative 2nd power. Then I'm going to take that and make it a reciprocal. So it's going to become 1 over n. And that negative 2 now becomes a positive 2. Okay. Actually, I'm going to write the positive 2 with the near the n because that's where it should belong. And then I'm going to combine those two together, and I will get negative 5 over, and then my denominator is n to the 2nd power, and then there would be my final answer for number 13. Remember, the negative exponent is something we talked about in 2 worksheets that we've done this past week, and so if you need to review that, please go back and review that. That was something we had discovered. Actually that you discovered on your own without me having to tell you that. Number 13, 3, I'm going to take that to the negative 2nd power. So 3 over 1 is the fraction for 3, but then I'm going to make that 3 now a reciprocal. So it's going to become its reciprocal, which is going to be 1 over 3. And now instead of a negative 2, it'll be a positive 2. So again, it stays with the base number 3. So my final answer, I could write 1 over 9. Either one of these two answers will be an acceptable understanding of what a negative exponent means, so I can accept both as an answer. Number 17, 6 times to the 3rd power. I think we know how to do that problem. I'm actually going to leave that for you to do because I know that you understand an exponent. Number 19, I'm going to expand that problem out. I have 8 times x times 7 times x times x times x times x. So again, I'm expanding. After I expand it, I'm able to then condense it back and then simplify then simplify, which is really what I want to do, into just one answer with one power. Right now it's two separate powers. So here I have a power, and here I have it times another power, but really to simplify the problem, I just want one power. So I may simplify the 8 and the 7 and times them and get 56. I can put all the x's together and then get x to the 5th power, because if I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's, and then that would be my final answer. That I don't need to write two separate powers, but I just get one power as my simplified answer. And then in 21, the last problem I will do in this PowerPoint, in this recording, is this problem. Again, I can expand it, so I'm going to expand. So I get 6 times k times 7 times, and k is to the 2nd power, so that gives me k times k. Then I will condense it back together and simplify. And this gives me actually a perfect understanding of what the final answer is and how I got there by working it out through the expansion. And again, expanding is the safest way to do your problem when you simplify. So to simplify it to just one power, I'm going to multiply the 6 and the 7 and will give me 42. I'm going to take the k's and put them all together, and that will give me k to the 3rd power, and that's my final answer there. I hope this has helped. If you need any further assistance, I will try to spend as much time on Thursday before the quiz tomorrow, or the next day for Friday.